Hi, my name is Rick Howe. I'm a TV guy, and this show is called Talk Back to Television. It's about the business of television, how we make the programs, how we distribute the programs, and mostly how we pay for the programs. Because if we can't pay for the shows, there's nothing to watch. Stay tuned. Good morning. This is Talk Back to Television, and I'm here with John Giegengack from Intel, from Hub Research. Those guys there. See that thing? He's a sponsor. John, how are you?
Hey, Rick, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Okay. You wanted to talk about YouTube, and I want to talk about the deal that was made this past weekend with Skydance and Paramount. Let's see if we can merge the two together and give those guys a business strategy that works. So tell us what you found out about YouTube.
Well, we just recently completed a study that we do twice a year called Battle Royale. And we, over the history of the company, we've been mostly dedicated to TV content. But as the years have gone by, there are a lot of other kinds of content that, compete with television, like gaming, like social media, like social video, especially YouTube. And so this one study that we do looks at everybody's entertainment diet across all those different kinds of content and all those different providers to see what are people using, which of those things are kind of gaining share. And then importantly, and the thing I think we can talk about today is what are their must-have platforms. So what are the things that become kind of a habitual, I can't do without it type of content, and then what are the other ones that are maybe on the bubble and they're in danger of getting cut if they run out of time or they start running out of money?
So what are the top five?
Well, one of the questions that we ask is we show everybody all the different platforms they told us that they use, and then we make them assign each one into one of two categories. So we ask them, is this a must-have source, something that your household can't do without, or is it a nice-to-have, something that, I like it, but if it went away, it wouldn't be the end of the world. Mm-hmm. And then we compare to see among the users of each platform which ones are the most likely to be must-haves. And for whatever reason, the number one answer last year and this year was Spotify. So about 3/4 of people who use Spotify say that that's a must-have platform that they can't do without. Last year, only one of the top five was a YouTube platform. So number 4 was the basic version, the free service version of YouTube.
Original YouTube.
Yeah, that's a good name for it. YouTube Original. 2/3 of people that use that said it was a must-have platform. But just a year later, out of those top 5 sources, number 1 was Spotify again, but then number 2 was YouTube Premium, number 3 was YouTube Original Recipe, number 4 was YouTube TV, and number 5 was YouTube Music. So between 70 and 75% of the people who use each of those YouTube platforms said it was a must-have platform that they can't do without. And that's a big change, especially to take place in just 1 year. And it's really interesting too, just to see that, I think number 6 on the list was Netflix.
Yep.
So Netflix has more users than any of those platforms except for YouTube Original.
Yep.
But YouTube Premium, for instance, even though it has far fewer users than Netflix, the people that use it are actually more likely to say it's a must-have platform than the people that use Netflix. And the reason I think this is so important is, one, it kind of really underscores the way that YouTube is sort of sneaking in under the radar with traditional media companies who still, many of them, I think, still think about it as cat videos.
Yep.
And as non-premium content, which it is, but especially among younger people, it's really become a mainstay of how they get entertainment. The more YouTube traffic now happens on a TV screen than on any other device. And that really means that YouTube is really competing, neck and neck for every one of those viewing sessions. Even though people are consuming more media, the day's still only 24 hours long. And every time somebody decides to watch something on YouTube, that's a half an hour or however much time they spend that isn't going to be spent watching something on Netflix or on CBS or on Hulu.
All right. That's a really interesting comment that I was going to ask a question about. You said a half hour. Do people spend a half hour with YouTube going through different little short clips? Is that actually the behavior pattern?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they
Really?
spend half an hour or more on very often on TikTok. It's upwards of an hour is where we start to see more of those sessions going to kind of a premium video platform like we're used to thinking about as
Sure.
TV.
Sure.
But among young people, they spend an astonishing time. There's plenty of people that spend 2 hours watching videos on TikTok, which are almost exclusively uh, short form, very short form.
Yep.
But there actually is more long form content on YouTube, so they pull in a lot of people that want to watch documentaries, for instance. And this also isn't lost on TikTok. You probably read a few weeks ago about how they're experimenting with longer form videos
Yeah.
up to 60
Sure.
minutes
Sure.
on TikTok too. So it's really I think what appeals to people is the zero friction sort of discovery process. So if you think about if you think about dialing into Max, for instance, or Netflix, you're going to spend, and the interface is dedicated for you to spend a certain amount of time deciding what you're going to watch.
Yep.
If you look at YouTube, it's a little bit less time on discovery and a little bit more time getting something immediately onto your screen. With TikTok, when you open it up, by default, the video just starts playing, and you don't actually select anything. You select by scrolling,
Right.
and then the algorithm learns what you're interested in and refines what you're going to see. But I think that method of instant on, zero thought about what I have to watch and just see what crops up. That sort of serendipity, which used to be part and parcel of how we watch TV with channel surfing, is something that really hasn't been addressed by streaming platforms all that much. And I think that the social platforms are doing a really good job of letting people just get something running on their screen in the fewest number of clicks and the least amount of thought possible.
All right. Let's talk about, because this past weekend, we're recording this on July 8th. This past weekend, finally, the Skydance, Paramount, Viacom, CBS, all that stuff fell into place. There's a couple more pieces. Can Paramount, we'll settle on that specific part, and in Paramount on the old CBS library,
Mm-hmm.
hundreds and hundreds of thousands of half hours and 1 hour shows, some of which I think are hilarious by today's standards. Should Paramount be adopting a YouTube and or TikTok strategy and using that content to get out there and get in front of people and then play the game? Well, if you like this, you're going to love this one. It's only $3.99 a month.
Yeah, I think that's a strategy that can be and would be really effective, and one that a lot of the legacy media companies aren't leveraging enough. If Paramount Plus is, I mean, I think the platform is good, but it's competing with other streaming platforms that are also really well designed, and there aren't really any of them that are bad at this point. The challenge is that there's just too many of them.
Yep.
But Paramount, as you said, they have a whole library of shows that are really compelling. But even their newer stuff is a huge destination. Yellowstone drove a ton of new signups to Peacock, for instance, when it was streaming there. In our research on TV discovery, when we asked about what are the sort of the franchise brands that make people the most interested in watching, uh, Marvel was number one. I think Star Wars was number two, but the number three and number four were CSI and NCIS.
Sure.
So, we don't they don't appear all the time in sort of what are the most buzzworthy shows, but they're really tried and true uh, brands that people equate with good television. And there's a tremendous amount of content out there. And if something like Suits can catch on and get big on Netflix, there's any number of other franchise shows like that are of high quality, that are well known, and that have lots and lots and lots of episodes, which is one of the other things that we find people really gravitate to. One of the reasons that shows like The Office, for instance, was successful on Netflix is that it's funny, but there's also just a tremendous amount of it. So you can consume all of those episodes. And the more episodes there are, the further down the road you can kick the can of trying to go through the process of deciding what I'm going to watch next.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, if I was at CBS, the first thing I would do would be I would take their licensed sound from the show once every 15 minutes. It has a
Mm-hmm.
funny name of swoop or whatever, but it's that thing when Gibbs shows
Yeah.
up and he's frozen in black and white. And I would just license the crap out of that to
Yep.
anybody and everybody who wanted to take that and create little memes and shorts and this and that and the other thing and just push the brand. Push the brand. And that's
I
what
think
YouTube
you're
allows
I think
people
you're
to
right
do.
about that. Yeah, I mean, and that would be, I think one of the problems that a lot of these platforms have is trying to get, especially Gen Z people, trying to attract them to a show the same way that they attracted their parents and their grandparents. And
Ain't gonna happen.
there's a fundamentally different way uh, that they watch, and there's a fundamentally different sort of itch they're trying to scratch when they turn on the TV in the first place. That's not to say that they don't ever want to watch full length TV shows. They do for sure, but the method through which they decide which one of those they're going to watch is entirely different. They're not doing it based on air promos or billboards.
Sure.
They're listening to podcasts. They're watching TikTok. They're watching YouTube and seeing what other people like them are watching.
All right. So now YouTube, can they keep this momentum up? Okay. You talked about how YouTube Premium and YouTube TV viewers, relatively small sample, but they really love it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my past would suggest that as they expand, they get past those early adopters and they get into people who kind of say, it's great, but I don't have to have it. Can they keep that momentum up with what they're doing now?
I think they can, because the big advantage that they have, one of the big problems for all these platforms is that there's so many of them that giving people a reason to try yours, or even making them find out about it in the first place is a challenge. But YouTube, the OG YouTube, the original recipe, is so ubiquitous. Close to 90% of people use that at least once a week.
And it's easy to get to, and it's easy
to get to. Everybody knows it, and you have, every time somebody's watching on YouTube, you have almost unlimited at bats to get them to try one of these other platforms. Sure. And if you're on there at all, you probably do get the alerts like, would you like to try YouTube TV free for a month? Would you like to try, if you're listening to a music video, they'll ask you, would you like to try YouTube Music? So there are many, and obviously not everybody clicks on that every time, but they're on YouTube, the original YouTube, all the time, and you've got unlimited at bats. So I think that your ability to convert those people that are adjacent, they're using one of your other platforms, your opportunities are maximized, and the likelihood that you're going to get every single one of those people eventually to try it who has an interest is much higher than if you're going out and just trying to find them in the wild with some kind of marketing campaign.
I get that. And oh, by the way, in terms of the opportunities on YouTube and the age of the viewers, you can sell a lot of boxes of Fruit Loops.
You sure can.
All the breakfast cereal that all those people grew up with and just crave all the time. All right, speaking of craving,
most of them eat avocado toast for breakfast now.
No, yeah, they might, but they really want the Fruit Loops, dude. I got one in my
I like those better too.
All right, man. We're gonna sign off, John Giegengack from Hub Entertainment Research. Thank you, bud. It's been informative and educational for us.
Thanks, Rick. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.